Welcome to the Everyday is Saturday podcast, the #1 motivation show on the planet.
No more Mondays for you. It's time to make every day Saturday. Boom!
This is the podcast where we help you to accept who you are, not where you are.
On the roller coaster of life, you know we only sit in the front seat, champion. So make sure you are fastened and tight. Let's go!
Tired of feeling run down all the time during the week? We can help you make every day feel like it's a Saturday.
Let's go. Pack your bags. It's time to leave Averageville.
Introducing the man who thinks abnormal stands for above normal.
When you're on fire, people will travel from miles around to watch you burn, baby. We are fired up.
The host of the Everyday is Saturday show, Sam Crowley.
Hello, champion. Welcome back to the podcast, Everyday is Saturday show, the #1 motivational podcast on the planet. Hey, I was chatting with a couple individuals, it was a couple days ago, and I think I recorded a podcast recently about this topic. It's about 10xing your income and making more. By the way, all of that first 20 seconds I just recorded reminds me of a Stephen Wright comedian line where he's a really dry comic. Maybe you're even too young to know who Stephen Wright was. Probably back in the 80s. But he's like, hey, about 20 years ago, or no, it was yesterday. That's the big laugh line. Anywho, I want to talk to you. Even if I talked about this, I'm going to go in a new direction with it as well. 10xing your income, 10x. Love the concept, but it depends at what level you get to. And you're going to be accused of not having an abundant mindset and settling and all those things. You're not doing any of that. You are setting up your lifestyle. The podcast previous to this, we talked about Saturday's a mindset. All right, it's not a circumstance. So there was a time where I'm like, absolutely, man, I'm making 50 grand a month, I'm making 50 grand a year. I want a 10x. I want to make $500,000 a year. So let's go. And that was cool. But when you get to $500,000 a year, if you're somebody like myself, do you want to 10x and get to $5 million? The answer is absolutely not. I have no interest in getting to $5 million a year in my business. Why? Well, it's easy from my perspective. I don't want to spend time away from the people that I love spending time with because that's going to bring in a whole new set of problems. Meaning when you grow, there are growth pains, man. There just is. Now, some of you out there love that stuff. And if you do, get after it, man. We need people like you out there running 5, 10, 20, $100 million organizations. Giddy up. For me, put a 9-iron in my hand every single day of the week. I can run my business, spend time with my wife and kids. I'm totally cool. And there's a lot of marketers out there. This does not get talked about enough because what happens is people start feeling guilty when they go to a seminar or they're on a Zoom call or something and somebody's like, how much you want to make a month? Well, I want to make $100,000 a month. Well, why so low? I'm like, come on, dude. Really? Like, you wouldn't be happy with $100,000 a month? Well, I worry about you if you wouldn't be happy at $100,000 a month. Miserable people making $1 million a year, right? You know these individuals. I know these individuals. They are absolutely miserable. They're so poor. The only thing they have is money, So when you get in this conversation, I was in a couple of days ago with a couple members on our team, Sharp Cookies, man. And it was Carol and Katie, Sharp Cookies, entrepreneurs, super smart. And I was just chatting with them about that whole 10X thing. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it. From where I'm at right now, I have no interest in earning 10 times as much. Just don't, because I know, I'm 55, man. I've been around the block a few times. I know the problems that come with growing an organization that's going to do 5 to 10 million a year. Now, you could probably get away with being a solopreneur and bringing in 5 million a year. Matter of fact, there's guys and girls that I know that have maybe a couple of VAs, and they're doing those kind of numbers, which is great. You got to set the lifestyle first. All right, you got to set the lifestyle first. Because if you can't get by on $1 million a year, you're really doing something wrong. Can we just be honest? I'd really love to have a conversation with you if you're making $1 million a year and you're not satisfied. Even though growing comes a lot more problems, you know what I mean? You're fine, man. You're totally fine. There's men and women that are making $8,000 a month. They're perfectly happy, perfectly content. That's the everyday is Saturday mindset. So comparing yourself and getting yourself out, I made 10 grand. Now I got to get to 20. Okay, I think that's very reasonable. You probably need to do a lot less to double your income from 10 to 20 than doing a lot more. Like very targeted, focused activity, doing more of that and cutting everything else out. I have seen this 80-20 rule play out in my life at every facet, all right? 80% of your income is going to come from 20% of your activities. Flipped in a negative way, 80% of your problems are going to come from 20% of the things that you do. Cut those things out. There's a great book, The 80-20 Principle. If you haven't read it, you got to read it. It's a great book. I read it last year. I'm a big fan. Hell, I'm more of a fan of like the 90-10 principle. I think 90% of your income comes from 10% of your clients, 10% of your activity. And so to get from 10 to 20 grand a month, if you're an entrepreneur, for example, you probably got to cut out a lot of stuff you're doing. Do less. Do more with less. Focus in on what's driving that revenue and shine that magnifying glass over that. But I just wanted to record today about that whole 10X thing. I get it. Grant Cardone, love you. Think you're a great marketer. You can own that 10X brand, and I think that is fantastic. It's just not for me, for where I'm at right now. Again, going back 20 years ago when I left the corporate game, I was making $0 online and $0 as a speaker. So when I got to $1,000 in a month, I'm like, yeah, give me 10 times this. I can handle that. Matter of fact, not only can I handle it, I kind of need to make that much just to keep the wheels on the old Crowley bus, okay? When you factor in all the bills and everything like that, perfectly fine for 10 grand a month. 10 to 20, no problemo. 20 to 50, I can handle it. Remember, got 4 kids, 50 grand a month. Here's another thing. When you're talking about those kinds of numbers, it's only moving the comma. It ain't that big a deal. Like I said, you're going to find out real quick. If you haven't made a dime online, or maybe you want to be a speaker or a podcast or something like that, and you're not making any money, I get it. We've all been, you have to be there. I mean, you literally, this is math. You have to start at 0, okay? And when you get to $1,000, then you get to $1,000. But when you get to $1,000, you're going to figure out real quick, the behavior that took you from $1,000 to $5,000 in a month, doing what you love, for example, if it's speaking and podcasting, you didn't do anything different. You just learned a lot more. You had to get that wisdom that we talked about on the previous podcast. You had to get that stuff under your belt. So the mistakes become a lot less. The wins they start showing up a lot more. But you got to win on a smaller scale before you ever get to that larger one. So when you get 10, 20, 50 grand a month, I mean, hell, I made 150 grand in a day from stage at one point. No big deal. I mean, here's the thing. I literally did nothing different. I spoke for 90 minutes. I did nothing different than I spoke for 90 minutes years before that at some random MLM party get-together at 10 o'clock at night just because they'd have me speak, and nobody bought anything. I think one of the reasons why they didn't buy anything is because I didn't have anything to sell. That might have something to do with it now that I'm thinking back. I literally had nothing to sell them. I got their email addresses and marketed back to them. I had no idea what I was doing, man. No idea what I was doing. So I think it's really important to understand where you fit in this world, where you are most comfortable, where you could add the most value. All right, we're not talking about not working. We're not talking about that you don't have an abundance mindset. We're not talking about settling. Because look, if you're one of the people in this world that God called to go earn $100 million and you're not using your talents because you do know how to build out a large organization, you're not going to lose sleep and you're not going to get divorced over it, you're called to do that, man. I ain't called to do that, okay? But you are, and you got to step into that calling. That's the difference, okay? So I hope it planted a seed for you in some really good soil today. I mean, really good soil. Share it with somebody that needs to hear it. Smash that 5-star rating on iTunes. It helps amazing people like you find the show. And when you are ready to launch your own $1 million message, make sure you get on my calendar. Go to launchmymovement.com. All right, that's it. That's all. Let's have the best day ever. And that's a wrap. Another Everyday Saturday podcast in the books. Thanks so much for listening. Would you do your boy a favor? Would you get on iTunes or wherever you listen to the Everyday Saturday podcast and leave a rating for the show? It helps amazing people like you find the show faster. And that's what I'm looking for, amazing people like you. Hey, I'm always hanging out on the interwebs. You can check me out on Instagram at EveryDayIsSaturday. Let me know you're listening to the show. Love hearing from fans of the Everyday Saturday podcast. And one last thing, when you're ready to launch, get on my calendar, go to launchwithsam.com. You and I are going to work together to set rocket fuel to your dream. Are you ready? Let's do it. I'll see you on the next Every Day is Saturday podcast.